crank it up. We're talking with legendary performer and songwriter Mr. Rodney Crowell, and Rodney is going to be at the Harvester in Rocky Mount Sunday, June 10th. And Rodney, first off, thanks for taking some time to chat with us.
Yeah.
Have you been in Virginia in a while? I can't remember the last time you were around our area.
Wow, that's a good question. Probably Roanoke, maybe the closest. Emmylou Harris and I were through there. We were doing a couple of tours together, and it seems as though I remember we were in Roanoke, and maybe a festival in Virginia. But I haven't been, there on my own since probably the last time I was at the Harvester, which might have been 4 years ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right, and it's such a wonderful venue. They're bringing in so many great artists like yourself.
It's a beautiful, beautiful venue there. Truly is.
Yeah, it's interesting. All the people we talk to, they give the place rave reviews, the sound, the people, the audiences, the whole nine yards. And gosh, you've played all different types of venues. I mean, where does the Harvester rank up there amongst the ones that you've played?
Well, that's hard to do, when you factor in, most of the globe. It ranks really high on the performing arts. Uh, I would put it in the top 20 of the performing arts, and if top 20 seems like a little bit of a step down, it's not, because there are quite a few venues that aspire to deliver the same kind of quality that the Harvester does. So, when I heard we were going, I said, "Oh yeah, that'll be good. We'll have fun, and it'll sound good, and the audience will be great."
Yep, all of the above right there. Hey, listen, your new album, it's your 19th solo record, I believe. It's an acoustic classics album. You're going to reimagine, or you have reimagined, a lot of your big-time hits. It's coming out July 13th. I know this is an album that you're pretty proud of. Tell us about what went into making this thing.
Well, I like you framing it as a reimagining. Certainly, I reimagined the songs done all acoustically. A little accordion, some guitars, mandolin and fiddle. Almost Appalachian in a way. But we approached the songs strictly from that point of view. And in some cases, I wasn't so happy with previous recordings of the songs, even though they might have been hits. And I had an opportunity sort of to correct that for myself, to have the satisfaction of knowing that when I first recorded anything but Tame, it was I didn't quite know the song the way I know it now, and am able to deliver it. So, acoustic classics really satisfying for me artistically, because I can say, okay, now that song is documented the way I want people to hear it and to understand it. And for the most part, that was the approach I took to making the whole album.
We're talking with music legend Rodney Crowell. He's going to be at the Harvester Sunday, June 10th, and we'll dive into songwriting a little bit more later on. But, you mentioned acoustically hearing these songs the way you wanted to hear them. Is that how you do most of your writing? I mean, is it when these songs come out of you, do you hear it just you and the acoustic guitar first, or do you hear arrangements and that kind of stuff?
That would be, yeah, occasionally I've plunked out something on the piano, but 95% of the time I've written it on an acoustic guitar. And, by the time I get into the studio with a group of musicians, it morphs into a accommodation of all of the creative input that comes. And to bring it back full circle to acoustic only, driven mainly by my right hand on the guitar, I'm able to get back closely to how it was written.
Well, speaking of songwriting, you've got your Adventures in Song event coming up July 16th through the 20th. So that's happening right after the album is released. It's in California. Talk about this event, because this is pretty cool, and you've got some other songwriting heavyweights that are going to join you on this thing.
Yeah, it's in Carmel, California, right on the Pacific Ocean, in a lovely 500-acre setting. And and it's myself and Joe Henry and Brennan Lee and Alan Shamlin and Lisa Loeb, and Bernie Taupin is going to be a special guest, as is Ben Montench from the Heartbreakers, Tom Petty and Heartbreakers. And Don Peake is going to be there, one of the guitar players from the legendary Wrecking Crew. So there'll be some guitar instruction. But, we'll be having a really intense look at songwriting, and the participants, will have the advantage of having myself and these other, experienced and gifted songwriters to break down the craft of songwriting for them so that they can be a little more informed about actually what they want to achieve writing songs.
Well, you've written some incredible songs, and obviously the folks on your list that are going to be there have written some incredible songs. Don't want to give away all your secrets before the event, but how does the songwriting process typically work for you? Something just pops in your head and you grab the guitar and say, I got to work on that, or do you sit down and knock on the door occasionally? Just what do you do to come up with these masterpieces?
Well, I work, the main thing that I do is work at it steadily day in and day out. Occasionally life encroaches on that plan, and I have tours to do and other things, but when I can get time and quiet, you give me a month of time to myself, I'll spend every day working on songs, and it's because my belief that in order to write songs, you've got to do it. I mean, if you're going to, if you're a surgeon, and you do open heart surgery, you're at the top of your game if you're in that operating room day in, day out, doing what you do and keeping your skills on. And that's a big part of songwriting. Now, not everybody can do it, and so in our songwriting camp, we have to take into consideration there are those who don't have that freedom. But in fact, songwriting can't really be taught. It can only be encouraged. But the thing that can be taught is certain elements that go into the craft of songwriting, self-editing, and how narrative flow, and choice of words, and self-editing being right at the top.
Well, how much of that stuff did you learn from those guys and girls in your early days, talking about Jerry Reed and Guy Clark and Emmylou Harris and all those people you hooked up with when you got to Nashville, or did you have a lot of that ingrained before you went to Nashville?
Well, I knew a lot about songs because my father was a hillbilly singer, local, but he had a real encyclopedic knowledge of songs. And I kept notebooks, I wrote other people's songs down in a notebook. I did that classic thing of dropping a needle and getting a line and writing them down. So I had been writing down songs for years when I arrived in Nashville, and then I fell in with Townes Van Zandt and Guy Clark and Mickey Newberry, and Steve Earle was coming through, Lucinda Williams at the time. We were we were learning from people maybe 9 years older than us, and just had that hands-on experience, or that first-hand experience of being up late at night with a master songwriter, listening to how they've crafted a song, how they put it together, and sometimes being able to actually have a conversation about how it was done. And if you really want to be a songwriter, you got to keep your eyes and ears open and learn everything you can at any turn in the road, and I did that.
Well, it seems to have worked out quite well for you. Rodney's website is rodneycrowell.com. You can learn more about the new album, The Adventures in Songwriting Camp. Rodney, what else should we talk about? Should we talk about some more of these great songs that you've written? I mean, when somebody like Waylon Jennings wants to do Ain't Living Long Like This, or, people covering Leaving Louisiana in the Broad Daylight, I mean, how important was that in your development to know that, hey, I've got these songs and some real heavyweights want to put them on their records?
Well, yeah, it was validating, but also other heavyweights would say, oh, that heavyweight had a hit with that guy's song. I need to check him out more closely. and the snowball got rolling that way. But the joy of getting Waylon Jennings calling me in 3 o'clock in the morning and saying, "Hey, Hoss, you got any plans to put out any Living Long Like This as a single off your album?" "Well, no, sir, not really." He said, "Well, hang around and pay attention. I'm gonna cut a hit on it." And he did. So that's that's fairy tale stuff, and I've been lucky to have those kind of experiences quite a bit.
Yeah, more than a few times you've done that. Shame on the Moon comes to mind, and gosh, I guess we could go on if we wanted to. Is the Acoustic Classics album, is that part of that too? The aspect of, hey, Waylon did the song like this, but this is kind of how I heard it when I started, and I like what Waylon did, but maybe you'll like this version of it too. That kind of thing, covering yourself almost.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I thought it through to that, degree. More like, hey, man, I've been recording. I mean, I've been performing Ain't Living Long Like This, since the late '70s and mid '70s. I know how it goes. For me, and a lot of other people have done it, too, over the years, and I don't have any. It's not like that. I want to define it separate of someone else's performance of it, but more it's just I want to get it down the way I feel it and hear it, and and have fun doing it. I mean, because I understand, to go in and do an acoustic record of songs you've been doing for a lot of years is not really work. It's fun, and so what we were doing on that record, and I hope that's what shows through, is that we were really having fun. And we weren't, we didn't have to think about it very much. We just played.
Yeah, none of your songs ever seemed forced or like it's work, and the live performance is the same way, obviously. I think about, your Houston, Texas connection. I mean, how much does Houston and maybe Texas in general come into your songwriting? I mean, obviously you've got songs like Telephone Road where there's a direct reference, but is that Texas kind of a style really reflected in all your albums?
Well, it's the landscape where I grew up. I dare say, the Carter family, A.P. Carter, however he was pulling songs, out of Appalachia, it's you think of the Winding Stream or songs that the Carter family were doing, or even Dog Boggs before them. It was the landscape and the environment where they came up that formed their sensibilities and their imagination. So, yeah, Southeast Texas figures very prominently in my songwriting, especially when I'm working from memory. I don't always work from memory, but memory is a good tool in writing. If you can re-envision or reimagine, certain events, certain street corners, it just makes the songs more vivid.
Well, a song like Telephone Road, like I said, it's pretty vivid. It puts you right there on the Houston street corners. Rodney Crowell, he's coming to the Harvester in Rocky Mount Sunday, June 10th. Rodney, before we let you run, what's next on the agenda? Just touring and playing the songs from the Acoustic Classic albums? What else have you got in mind?
Oh, I'm doing that, and I'm working on another. I have another record in mind that I'm going to start working on pretty soon. Actually, in the next few days, I'm finishing up a Christmas album.
Okay.
Of all original Christmas songs. I wrote 11 original Christmas songs that I'm making into an album, and I guess I'll finish that up in the next week, in time for the Christmas season. And it's, I haven't covered any of the old chestnuts or classics. It's all brand new Christmas songs written by yours truly.
Wow. Now, did you write these specifically for the album, or you've been collecting these songs over the years?
Well, I wrote a few Christmas songs over the years, and then I said, then the inspiration hit me. I should make an album of original Christmas songs. And when that happened, I just started writing, and then before you know it, I had 10 really good Christmas songs, and they're dark and funny, and sometimes sentimental, and sometimes really, rock and rolling, and it's. I think I'm really proud of it. I think it's very eclectic and interesting music, and it's all central. The central theme is all Christmas.
That's pretty neat. That's I can hear that touch of excitement, and even your laid back voice. I can hear it there. So I'm looking forward to it as well. And I'll tell you, Rodney, it's going to be exciting to see. I know our fans are excited about it. The website is rodneycrowell.com. You can pre-order his new album, Acoustic Classics. You can learn more about the adventures in song and anything else you need to know about Mr. Rodney Crowell. Rodney, thanks so much for your time.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.